Hello, welcome to Jason Cabot's Experience. Our guest for the second or third time is Christina Brennan. We got a lot to catch up on.
We do.
So last time we met or we talked, you've had like a little career pivot, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Small,
So what are
small
you doing
pivot.
now?
I am a stand-up comedian now,
And
mostly
so
full time.
how'd that come about? Like, was something you always wanted to do, or
Kind of, I remember about 10 years ago it's been. Yeah, 10 years ago when I lived in Texas, one of my coworkers at Texas Roadhouse was a stand-up or is a stand-up comedian still, Roxy. And she had brought me out to a comedy show and I was hanging out with some of the comedians afterwards. And they're like, "You're pretty funny. You should try stand up. Like women should, we need more women doing comedy, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Not me, not little old me. Like, I'm just funny in conversation. Like, I couldn't be a performer." At the time, I was doing a lot of event planning and like strategy work and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm a behind the scenes person. I lift people up. I book the people. I'm not the talent. I book the talent. Which is funny because I'm a Leo, so that whatever self-doubt and all of that was going on is kind of funny to look back on and be like, yeah, right. You didn't want to be on stage. Okay. And then I kind of always had that in the back of my head and I'd write down little joke ideas and stuff. And I'm still trying to find those notebooks in storage one of these days. Hopefully I'll find them. But yeah, just kind of something in the back of my mind for a long time. And then when I got to Seattle and I was doing more public speaking work and helping people with their pitches and different things like that, when I started, helping more people with like public speaking and stuff like that, that's when I was really like, maybe I could do stand up. And so then for like years, and I remember like doing like my 2020 goals and being like, all right, I'm gonna go to an open mic this year, try stand up comedy for the first time, and then COVID hit. And then everybody was going through changes and like, analyzing things and whatnot, I think. And I don't know, I ended up moving back to Colorado and it was right around my birthday where I decided I was like, you know what, there's this open mic the night before my birthday, and that's what I'm gonna do for my birthday is get my friends and family to come watch me embarrass myself in front of a room of like 40 people.
so how do y'all get paid? Like, obviously, if you're Dave Chappelle, you make millions of dollars, but I always hear like you're like a up and coming comedian. You have to you have to pay the club some money to actually go on stage and stuff like that. Like, how do you actually make money?
It's a wide range. There's pay to play for sure. Like I just did a contest and contests usually have prize money and theoretically that's where the money comes from is, I pay $20 to perform. So there's some pay to play stuff. There's a lot of stuff in like New York and LA like that too that are just regular open mics and just because there's so many people, so it's a way to filter out. And they'll be like $5 or something. I don't know. I haven't been to New York or LA yet. So there's that side of it where you actually have to pay to perform. And then when you think about the costs even when you do get paid when you're new, it can be I've been paid like $10. I've been paid in food. I've been paid in nothing. I'm waiting actually for a Venmo payment from a show from 2 weeks ago. So it's a wide range. Generally speaking, when you're new, you're probably making like $3 to $5 a minute, and you're probably doing 7 to 15 minutes at a time. I've now kind of upgraded a little bit. I'm doing 20-minute, 15 and 20-minute feature sets, so I'm going up before the headliner. Um, Still doing showcases and stuff. I'm still in the range though where I'll do anything pretty much. Still do the roast battles, still do all the random
So when
things.
you go on stage, like how quickly do you know? Okay, I'm gonna do really good. Oh man, I might be bombing right now. Like how do you know that?
That's
Like,
funny. Um, I don't know. Like it could change real quick. It's like anything. Like it could be going really well at the beginning and then not so much. I try to get a feel for what the audience is laughing um, at other people's jokes and try to take that into consideration sometimes. But ultimately, like you got to you got to do your thing. And so, bombing, I haven't had that true experience where nobody's laughing or like people are booing me or trying to get me off stage. I've had a couple like hecklers, but I've never had like a crowd turn on me yet, so I don't really know what that feels like, but I'm sure it'll happen one of these days. I've definitely had individuals not be so happy with me.
so how do you handle hecklers? You just don't you probably put them in their place.
Yeah, that's kind of that's how it goes. And it's funny because I'm a nice person.
You're
I
very nice.
really
Yeah.
am. So nice. And so the shadow side of that is a little bit mean. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just depends. I've like the one that's coming to mind right now, like I hate the response that came up. I feel like I just gave like the most like low hanging fruit kind of thing. Because this dude was like, "You suck," and I was like, "Yeah, I suck a lot of dick." And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, everybody laughed, and I
Yeah.
had the room on my
Yeah.
side, and he ended up leaving, and
Hmm.
that was corny as hell. Like, and I was pretty new, so I was like, "All right, I
Yeah.
won." But like the next day, I'm like, "Okay, this is what I would have said, right?"
Yeah.
And so I kind of have like responses in my back
Yeah.
pockets because I know which jokes are gonna
Yeah.
rub people the wrong way. It's
Yeah.
political stuff usually, and
See,
so
yeah, I always thought you would have said something like, "Yeah, I suck a lot of dick, but never yours."
it's getting too personal. They don't even want him to think about that. We're not painting no kind of pictures like that. Um, yeah, this other lady, I let her interrupt me like 4 times. I was like, okay, uh-huh. And then she said something, and I just had to kind of go in on her. But
Yeah.
she didn't interrupt me the rest of the
Yeah.
set. And
Why I don't understand why people do that. Like you paid money to see these comedians. Why do you heckle? I never understood that.
that's yeah, that's real. In those situations, those are both open mics where they did not pay, and people are drunk, and
Yeah.
people be drunk. That's a
Yeah.
big
Yeah.
part of it. They get that liquid courage. And for some reason, because there's a like a with us being up on the stage and stuff, there's this expectation that we're gonna keep our composure to a certain extent. So that there's like it's almost like the keyboard warrior kind of effect,
Yeah.
but somehow in person they still feel safe to do
Yeah.
that. Like you wouldn't say that to me if we were just
No.
having a conversation at a cocktail party. You just have this like weird.
Has this ever happened where like someone's heckling someone and a comedian just like snap and jump off the stage and start fighting the person? Just like,
I've seen like clips and stuff. I've never seen it in
yeah.
person. Um, we have this show in Denver called the Gong Show, which is exactly what it sounds like. People can get gonged off stage. And so it's a late night Tuesday thing on like Colfax, which is like not known for, it'd be like a bar on Aurora or something. Like it's it's just kind of a rowdy kind of situation. So you get 2 minutes guaranteed, and then after 2 minutes, anybody in the room can gong you off stage, and heckling and stuff is actually encouraged. It's like meant to be like a can you win over the crowd and get the room on your side kind of vibe. And so at that show, I've seen things get a little physical. I've never seen a comedian like jump off stage and go after somebody, but I have seen people rush the stage.
Okay. So obviously you have your own style, right? Was any comedians like you kind of like, like look up to and trying to base your style off of?
Um, Not in terms of like style, I don't think. I definitely want to try to not emulate other people's style, but some of the people that I look up to are definitely more like the political comedians. And um, I got to see Amanda Seales live a few years ago, and I like the way that she just like she speaks her truth and then finds a way to make it funny with stuff that's not funny. You know what I mean? Michelle Wolf, Asa Minaj. I was a big fan of what he did with his special before, all the things came out about him lying about anthrax and shit. But he had I call it PowerPoint comedy. So he had visual effects. So, with my background in public speaking, coaching, and pitches and stuff, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to do PowerPoint comedy and just do different like versions of comedy. Like there's still so much that I haven't gotten to explore. So I have my voice. Like I can't remember who it was. My boyfriend sent me this clip of somebody talking about how like you're always gonna have your voice, but then over time you refine it, but it's always you. So I have my voice, but I think the style is gonna evolve the same way like your personality is kind of your personality, but you evolve and you mature and you grow a little bit, but you're still kind of always you. That's what I think it is, and so I'm still finding that in a sense, but
So why do you think some people find like one person funny, another person not funny? What do you think that is?
my friend Nina Davis told me that the best joke, I mean, she didn't come up with this, but she's the one who put this in my head. Is like the best joke is an inside joke with a friend, right? Where you can just like look at somebody across the room and
And
you're
and you
just
and,
busting
and
out
you
laughing,
instantly
right?
know.
And so like if we can create kind of that feeling, it's not going to be the same, but pseudo feeling of me, you, there's 100 people sitting around you in the crowd, but me and you are having this like moment. And like we got this
Yeah.
like inside joke now. If you can recreate like that feeling, that's the bit like that's the best one, right? Like that's the biggest feeling. And so you're not going to be friends with everybody. You're not going to connect with everybody. People aren't going to get that spark from every single person. And that's part of like the beauty of art and humanity, like how we all have room to grow. And
So I know for a while, and you're very detailed. You're very, you do it like you're really good at doing planning, right? So for your comedy career, do you ever plan out like you want to be certain places, like you want to be like performing in front of 10,000 people crowds in 5 years? You want to like do like go to Joe Rogan's spaceship comedy show and perform in 2 years? Like you have like I'm pretty sure you have a plan of what you want to do, right?
uh
Sort of, kind of.
not really,
That's
to be
surprising.
honest. Yeah, part of my like transformation during like COVID and stuff was just kind of letting go of some of that rigid. I still set goals, but I don't call them goals, I call them intentions,
Uh-huh.
and like just the rigidity of it. And it's um more like I have big long-term goals, sure, but in terms of like 5 years, 2 years, like I don't have it broken down quite like that. Versus I'm thinking about like my lifestyle overall and wanting to be a touring comedian. And there's milestones along the way that I've identified. And so then on like a short-term basis, I'm like, okay, I got these long-term things. So what do I need to be doing this month, this week to work towards that? And so it's like at the micro right now. But yeah, I actually don't have like this roadmap. There are some clubs that I absolutely want to do. There's some different shows like Don't Tell that I'd like to do. And other than that, it's not broken down the way like I would approach a business plan or the way I have approached business plans in the past.
Okay. So let's suppose someone came to you and said, "Hey, Christina, man, we really love your comedy. You're killing it. We're gonna put a show on, and you can pick any four comedians to go on tour with you. Be you and four other comedians.
Me
What four
for
comedians
the
you pick? It
comedian.
could be any comedians, famous people you know. Like which four would you pick to be like this nationwide tour?
That's funny. That's a great question that I would have never even considered. So if I'm getting asked to bring four comedians with me, I'm gonna pick four people that are funnier than me. Um, so do I have like buying power just to get any comedians
Any?
together? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I don't know. I probably would get some of my faves. I would probably do something where I don't know what kind of money. You gotta give me more details now because I'm like, wait, do I have like how much budget do I have? Because then I'm just paying the homies, right?
Yeah.
Like four people. Could we have four people, different people in every city? Like
Four
you
people.
know me, I'm trying
Four,
to bring
yeah,
as many
yeah,
people as
yeah.
possible.
Four people.
Um, people whose comedy, I don't know. I can't even, I feel like this is gonna come back to haunt me. So I don't even want to say four names, but
Okay.
I probably would want to put together like a cohesive show where, I've been on the road recently with Josh Dway featuring for him. I work really well with my friend Nina Davis, and um, those would probably be two people that I'd reach out to first. And then from there, trying to put together when I think about when I produce a show and I think about who's coming onto the show, I want there to kind of be an arc and have enough diversity that people aren't feeling like they just saw the same
Yeah,
comedian five times.
yeah,
Um, but also enough of like a flow of energy and
yeah,
stuff like that. You don't want too many monotone, kind
yeah.
of
Exactly.
deadpan
Yeah,
people in a
yeah.
row, but you don't want somebody to go from that to like this high energy, like rolling around on the floor type of comedian. It just is too jarring, I think, for people. Like that's like the interesting thing about open mics is you get all this style. It's not booked. It's not, um, thought about in that way because it's not supposed to be. But yeah, I'm gonna think about it. I'll
Okay.
send you my top four and you can put it on the screen in the
Okay.
post.
All right. And you're also working as a event sales manager at the Denver Improv.
I do. I sell that room when we're not doing comedy shows.
Okay.
One time we actually did a private comedy show for a group of like 30 people. And for anybody who's been to the Denver Improv, it's a big it's not theater style in the sense that there's like balcony and levels to the seating, but there's tiers to the seating and there's tables, but it seats like 350. So for 30 people. And we had three comedians because Rob Ward was in town, so he came through and hosted for us. And people loved it, and those people paid to like rent out the room and have a few comedians come through, and they were drinking. The show was at like 1 p.m. It was so funny to me that um people would want that. Like I wouldn't think most companies would do that, but there's a demand for it.
So what's your process of coming up with a joke, right? You just like have a notebook, you write ideas down, and then you like test it out with different audiences and like refine it and stuff like that.
Most of my jokes come from storytelling, and so I usually start by just telling the story, and that usually takes a long time, and I'm not getting laughs because I'm trying to figure it out, and you're like recalling versus telling the story. So I go through that uncomfortable thing in front of people. Usually I call it just like writing on stage. Um, um, so yeah, and from there it's almost like the brain dump, like I would do with like a consulting project, right? Like we're just gonna get it all out and then whittle away and then refine and find the perfect words and the perfect place to put it on the website or whatever. It's kind of like that. So then I'm like, okay, doing this. And then in my case, it's comedy. So where can I exaggerate something? Where can I kind of like set people up and they think it's going to go this way and then I take them over there. So it's just a process of refining and refining. So like last night or 2 days ago, I was at Seward Park and I saw these ladies like not washing their hands, right? So last night I went to two different mics and I kind of tried some different versions of like, would you do it like, would you do this? It's kind of like that, right? And you just find the metaphors and the comparisons and just write and then you try it and then the stuff that gets laughs you keep. And if you try it 10, 15 times and it's just not getting laughs, like maybe it's just not funny.
So it usually takes like 10, 50 times to like go from original idea to like, okay, this is the perfect joke, so to speak.
Yeah, and I mean, I still refine jokes. I just wrote a new tag. I was preparing for that competition I mentioned, and so I'm like going through my set. Joke that I wrote 2 years ago, I found a new tag to it. So now it's like, okay, and I got to bring that joke and try that out, right? So to me, a joke's never gonna be done. Um, there's like the technical side of it from like a business perspective. Once you've published something, like it's out there. But other than that, like I don't see a joke ever being done.
That's a good point. Like, suppose you tell a joke somewhere next week, right? And then someone like basically copies the same joke, and someone says, "Hey, this guy stole your joke." What happens? Like, is there any legal ramifications you can do? Or it's like this is like when Instagram copied Snapchat, there's nothing you can do about it. Or there's
Yeah,
some kind of code of conduct between comedians where they say, "Okay, I know this is Christina's joke."
that's funny. Code of conduct among comedians. That's a joke in itself. That's the sketch right there. Code of conduct. No, joke stealing is like a thing for real, and I don't think unless you have something like copywritten, published, um, that there's any legal route that you can take, particularly because with copyright stuff, there's parody is a thing. And so I'm sure there's some gray area there where it's
Yeah.
like, how can you prove that they weren't just making fun of you telling the joke? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's like a lot of like loopholes in that for comedy. Um, but yeah, you can look up like Carlos Mencia has been accused of stealing
Yeah. Yeah.
jokes.
Yeah.
Cat Williams said some other when he did that interview.
Shannon Sharp. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. He
it
lost some people.
happens.
Yeah.
I had an interesting thing happen one time because I have this little joke that I told, and then um a local comedian, she does these like posts on or Facebook every day, like good morning to everybody except the people who da 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 da. It was like so it was her framework, but it felt like she was like using my premise kind of, and a couple people were like, "Isn't this your joke?" And I'm like, "No, my joke's like this, but kind of is my joke." And it's like, is it though, or are we all just humans and premises get recycled? Everybody's talking about Kamala Harris right now. I even made a fucking joke about it last night. So like, are we stealing each other's jokes
Yeah.
or are we all just talking about the same thing?
Yeah. I think on one hand, some people say like you're stealing jokes, but on the other hand, it's like you're complimenting that person by we using a joke, right?
To an extent, yeah. Sometimes it's annoying, but I'm just like, well, if somebody can steal your joke, then you didn't put enough of you into it in a sense. And so all of my stuff comes from stories. So it's like I 9 times out of 10, I probably got the receipt. A lot of stuff I just noticed like a year ago, um, is where I got the inspiration for one of my jokes that I've been telling now, I guess, for like a year. But it was literally like I'm like working on my car and I like did an Instagram story like I can finally relate to men. And then like that eventually turned into a joke that I tell like I'll tell it tonight during my set. And um I don't know if somebody like took that joke or that setup or that punchline, like they're just still not going to be able to tell it like me. So it's just something I'm not too worried about. And being so new to this as well, I'm like, that just means go right more, go be
And
better.
so change the subject. You're still playing basketball, right?
No, not really. I
No.
try to
Didn't you
sometimes.
just play a basketball thing? I saw it on your
Those
Instagram.
pictures were from June 2023.
Okay.
Um, I shoot around sometimes here
Yeah.
and there, but yeah, there's a charity basketball tournament every summer, um, in Denver for St. Jude's research,
Okay.
whatever it's called. That we love them. But yeah, I didn't get to play this year because it was just the other day, so
Okay.
I was just helping promote it and shared the pictures from last year where my team did take the championship title. Um, I scored about 6 points in that game, missed my free throws. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's surprising like how many um athletes, like people who like played D1 basketball and stuff like that, are comedians now. Not just like people who are rich and then decide to do
And
comedy.
so, with everything you're doing, how you take care of yourself?
Oof. I have like my morning practices and like a morning routine that I'm pretty dedicated to that helps me stay grounded and whatnot. Um, try to get as much rest as possible. So now that I've reached a certain curve with comedy, I feel like I don't have to grind as hard every night at the open mics. Like for a while there, I set this weird goal my first year in comedy that I wanted to be on stage 300 times in my first year. And so I was going like really, really hard, going to 4 mics a night. And like, I'll do that every once in a while. Um, but yeah, just getting my sleep is really important to me. Um, and just staying around people who are like positive and stuff like that. I'm in a new relationship that's been like really helpful for me helping to take care of myself and um yeah, so that's probably about it. I could probably do a better job. I need to stretch more, that's for sure.
So when you're doing your comedy, do you find like different demographics like laugh at different things? Like
Hmm.
different cultures have different, funny bones, so to speak.
Um yeah, I think there's definitely like anything we think like marketing and stuff like that, right? It's like you could look at something and um be like these people are going to more likely be these type of buyers or they're going to more likely laugh at these types of jokes. Um, so I do try to consider again, I don't know if it's just because of my background or if I'm still getting over people pleasing stuff and I just or my ego just really wants to make people laugh, but I'm gonna cater things a little bit to the crowd. I want to make people laugh. So it's like if I did a show in Marysville and there's like more blue collar people working at the Boeing plant in Everett, at the show. I'm not gonna like shove my political beliefs down their
Yeah.
throats. I might edit a word here or there. Um, I might switch up the gender sometimes in certain jokes, and because that's something I've noticed. I have a couple jokes they are written for women, and often at open mics, particularly, I'm performing in front of mostly men, and so I don't get that many laughs that night. But I know that shit's funny, and women are actually the ones that are really driving ticket sales for comedy.
So Seattle's pretty liberal. What is Denver conservative? Denver's liberal. What is Denver?
Denver is like on paper more liberal. Um, but Colorado in general is like a purple state. It's,
Okay.
it's similar to Washington in that effect. We have bigger roads and a lot more people with trucks. A lot more guns. We got more guns in Colorado. Uh, but yeah, I think you find a little bit more people who are a little bit more maybe diverse in their beliefs. So like they might be like, hey, gay marriage, but also want their gun rights,
Yeah.
So we have an interesting mix and you see it from room to room, even just, this bar attracts this type of person, this bar attracts that type of person. Um, we also are often doing comedy where people aren't expecting comedy to be, and so uh my comedian buddy Dave Stone said he calls it ambush comedy. And so that's a whole thing too, like mood and tone, right? Like environment. We all love doing new talent night at Comedy Works because it's the like underground, low ceiling, super dark, everybody's packed in, laughs are reverberating really loud for you. It's an easy room and it doesn't matter really. There's usually a good mix of people in that room, like demographically. Whereas sometimes you're in a bar that's lit like this and we're this far apart and like that's where you have people yelling at you and they think they can talk to you and stuff. But yeah, I think like the environment and stuff, you have to like give people a break a little bit. Like they came here to have a drink and catch up with their buddy, like you can't be mad at them for talking during the comedy show. Like they didn't know there's gonna be a fucking comedy show here. Which is why we should charge for comedy shows so people pay to come in anyway.
So timing, is timing something you have to work on, or timing just comes naturally to you?
I think some of us like it comes more easily. This um it's more intuitive maybe, and timing is super important. What I find interesting is when I am riffing and so like and then ooh I say something funny and so then I'm trying to recreate that timing, or you're like telling the joke for the 150th time and it's like committing to it still, not rushing through it and stuff like that. Also the timing around laughs. So the bigger the room, the longer the laughs last, the more it takes for the sound to travel, etc. You have to consider that into your timing as well. Um, but yeah, I think I have pretty good timing in general.
So right now, I have your link.
Let's see. I was like, what is happening over there?
Yeah, your link tree. Can you go
Cute.
real fast? Like talk about these things you're doing, your Patreon. You just started
Sure.
Patreon, right?
I did. I started Patreon. Because some people were like, "Do you have a Patreon?" That's honestly why I started it. That's why you see the call to action there is sponsor me. So I consider these people my sponsors. If I get enough people, I'm gonna get a jacket made with everybody's name on it, just like a race car driver. It's gonna be so much fun.
And the Patreon has different levels. I think you have one level where like I'm making this up probably, but one level you really got going detail with how you write your jokes, or there's something on them that's like really like next level, right?
Yeah, so there's some like low $1, pay what you can, $6, $11, right? Like you want to throw a little money my way, you get some exclusive content. And then the next tier up is the writer's room. So that's a live Zoom or Google Meet session where why am I promoting any of these companies? It's a live video conference. Where yeah, I basically take everybody through my writing process. And now that we've been doing it a couple of months too, I'm able to give kind of updates. So it's like, okay, here I told you the story about what happened. So everybody got to hear about how this rich white lady tried to rob me in Vail, right? And so then now I'll be able to give them an update this month on basically how that joke's been going and how I've pared it down to an actual
I
joke.
think it's so funny right here.
Okay, yeah. So in this case, yeah. So I gave them an update, right? On I was during the writer's room. Somebody was like, Sarah Sawchuk, who's a comedian, was in there and she was like, yeah, I've been working on some like wedding season type of material because it's wedding season. And then I had just happened to um go to a wedding. That's funny. June 3rd, maybe. Maybe there's another update actually. Maybe I hadn't gone to the wedding yet. Anyways, I was riffing about how I hate weddings and how I hated being a bridesmaid. It was like one of the worst things I've ever experienced. So then I was able to do a callback to one of my other jokes. And so that's what that note is referencing right there. But yeah. Also, nobody was actually named Michael. So that's an example where stories get changed and wow, look at that outdated list of shows there. That is a Google Doc for those of you who don't have a website yet, like me, or you're paying for it and still haven't published it, like me. Google Docs, you can put a lot of information in there. I've also got like my EPK, just like a short link, and it's just saved in a Google Drive, and it just goes to that, and I update it sometimes.
What's this petition thing? Wingo versus 3M.
Yeah. Another thing I'm doing is I'm actually going to be I am in the midst of helping the Wingo family with their documentary about this petition is specifically about the racial discrimination case, and
This is in
like
Colorado.
this all happened. The family's in Colorado, but this all happened in South Dakota, and the case is crazy in and of itself with the harassment and the retaliation, and like several people were involved. Um, but then during the case itself, there was a bunch of corruption that and it's still happening like to this day. So the documentary is going to be about that corruption, and I can't talk too much about it right now. But yeah, the petition's in my link. Or the petition is linked in my bio, and that's still helpful because it shows that people are paying attention. Like there's potential that like the state of South Dakota and the state of Minnesota are going to end up being sued. There's a lot going on there, but I've always had a social
Yeah.
justice focus, and haven't been protesting and getting
So
arrested anymore.
your
But
jokes have like a social justice like bit to them?
a lot of them do. I have this trope that I kind of let myself into it to make it like funnier, and just I think when you make fun of yourself, it defuses the situation a little bit, So this wannabe woke white woman character that I have, so I use that to talk. That's how I tie in a lot of social justice stuff, but then also the idea of wannabe woke and like how we're all kind of hypocrites at some point, and like it's kind of impossible to fully live up to your morals and values in a corrupt society. But definitely have some political jokes. And then when I can tell people are not so into that, I just switch it up real quick with like a sex joke. And
Okay.
just literally sometimes have said that. I'm like, okay, you want me to talk about sex again? Got it. Got it. You don't want to hear a woman talk about politics. You want to hear about my vagina. Cool. Let's do it. Because like I said, I want laughs. So
Yeah.
it's like, okay, if you're not feeling this, but also it's inspired conversations. Like I had this one dude come up to me and he's like, I actually wrote a joke about our interaction. But he basically was like, I don't agree with anything you say fundamentally, but you make me laugh.
Yeah.
And to me, that's like the highest compliment, that you can see past your feelings about it and be like, damn, that's a good joke.
Yeah.
That's funny. Um, so yeah, that's when I talk about like socialism, going back to like location too, like my socialist stuff does not hit too well in Miami,
Yeah.
where there's a lot of Cubans who left Cuba because they don't like
Yeah.
socialism.
Yeah, might not be a good set for you.
So I always have to acknowledge that, right? I still do the joke, right? I just acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'll pretend like I'm gonna duck from tomatoes or something. Same thing. I have a joke where I'm like, we've all heard the phrase "a cab," all cops are bastards.
Yeah.
How y'all doing out there? Like I definitely let them get a taste. It's like with that joke in particular, I have like 3 versions of that joke.
And my
So
thing is like whatever your demographic is, like if you're a policeman, fireman, Democrat, you have to be able to, if you can't laugh at yourself, someone makes a joke about you. Like I'm from Texas. You can make Texas jokes all you want, right? I don't care, right? If it's funny, I'm gonna laugh.
yeah, and that's the big thing. If it's funny.
Yeah.
If it's funny. Some people use comedy as an excuse to just say
Texas sucks.
outrageous
You
things.
from Texas, you suck.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
That's not
but
funny.
why?
Yeah, that's not funny. Yeah. So
exactly.
do people do this as a comedians? This is probably way too detailed. Like suppose you tell a joke, right? And you tell a joke, let's say at a comedy club tonight, and you like track the laughs you get. Like, okay, this night I got 3 laughs. This next night I get 2 laughs. You kind of track like metrics and stuff like that. That's like too much.
It's funny because shout out to Roger Hack, who used to run or help run the new talent night program at Comedy Works. He would do that for us. He would time when our first laugh was, and then tell us how many laughs we got the whole set, and then your average laughs per minute or whatever. I don't actually sit down and do that for myself, but when that information was given to me, I was like, okay, cool. So it gave me something to kind of go against. So some people I'm sure do that for every show. I know there's people who keep spreadsheets of every time they're on stage and keep notes about what worked and what didn't work. I see a lot of my friends come off stage and write something down, because something came to them or they want to capture the reaction. We're all always at least audio. Well, not all of us, but most of us who are serious about this are audio recording at the minimum, if not video recording, even open mic sets, because you might say something that you might riff on something and say, you didn't have your notebook out on stage, so you have a track record of it. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of different ways to kind of track the progress, and the laughs and all of that. I'm not quite that detailed, but I do try to get a laugh within the
And
first.
do you have like a group of comedians you hang out with where like suppose you go on stage after your set's done, they come to you and they say, hey, Christina, you should have done this, try this next time. Like this hit, but maybe you did this.
It's not so formal. Like there are like some like little cliques and stuff like that, and there's writing groups and workshops and stuff. In general, at a mic, the kind of I guess like the etiquette around it is if you have an idea and you want to share it with somebody, I think some people are kind of a lot of comedians are real socially awkward and don't really know how to do the interpersonal communication thing. So some people aren't great at like delivering this, but a common way, a nice way to do it is like, hey, I thought of a tag for your joke about pencils. Do you want to hear it? And then if they give you permission, then it's like, hey, I had this idea or whatever. Then there's other people you build rapport with. Like I have people who are like my actual friends. We hang out outside of comedy. We've built some relationship. We've actually had conversations. We've done shows together. Those people, if they came up to me and they wanted to give me some advice, I would listen to it. PJ Johnson did this a couple weeks ago. He's like, not that you asked, but my only advice would be da 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 da. So he acknowledged that, like, hey, you didn't ask, but so it's not like a okay, watch my set and give me notes kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But if you've got an idea for somebody, or every once in a while, I notice this with new people, they will ask for notes on their set. And I hate when they do that because 90% of the time we're not paying attention to each other's sets. So I'd be like, I don't know, man. People laugh. Good job. Keep doing it. Don't stop.
So what about this situation? Like, I'm making this up. Like, suppose like there's a new comedian, right? And you watch a comedian like 4 or 5 times, and you and all the other comedians are like, man, this person's horrible, right?
Yeah. Why are you doing that rape joke? Yeah.
Like this person is.
Yeah. We talk about it.
Horrible. Yeah. Like one of us needs to tell them that this comedy thing is not for him or her.
No, though. You don't. You have to figure that out on your own.
Okay.
Like I think some people might do that. I don't know. I can't speak for everybody, but it would be, in my opinion, wrong to just be like, this isn't for you.
Okay.
Because it's art. So how are you gonna tell somebody
That's
art
true.
isn't for them?
Yeah.
Especially we're talking open mic comedians. What you mean it's not for them? Like anybody's allowed to put their name on the list. Like that's part of it. So if any of my colleagues are doing that, I don't agree with that. But it's more of if they ask, right, then you give them your opinion. So the reason I just brought that up, there was a woman, she was trying that joke for so long, and it's just like nobody can tell you not to talk about it, because if that's what you feel inspired to speak about into a microphone, but bro, it's not funny. You got to find the funny in it if you're going to keep talking about it, or pivot and write new material. And that's what this particular comedian that I'm thinking of did. And I think she just did her first new talent night and stuff like that. So she's stuck around, and like she's getting funnier. And like if we were just like, no, dude, you're not funny, you shouldn't do comedy. And especially for women, she probably would have quit and not kept trying and not continued. And so yeah, I don't think we should be like.
So off the top of my head, what's the percentage of comedians are like men versus women? Is that like any other like Texas like 90% men, 10% women? Or evenly balanced in comedy?
I don't know if it's as bad as tech, but there's nights where there's 25 names on the list and I'm the only woman.
Yeah. I mean,
so
I recently watched the Netflix comedy Tom Brady special. And I think what's her name? Not Nikki Glazer. Maybe it was Nikki Glazer. She was the only female on the whole roasting thing.
Yeah.
I think that's her name.
Mm-hmm.
She whoever was, she freaking killed it.
Yeah. I didn't watch it, but I heard she was the best, and that doesn't surprise me.
It was best. Yeah, she killed it. Like
she's another female comedian that I really like.
What's kind of messed up, right? So Randy Moss went after her, right? Like, yeah, like, dude, yeah. I would say, hey, I'm not going up after her. Like, no way.
Oh, I thought you said he went after her for a second. I was all like, why would he do that to himself?
Yeah.
That's like.
All right, it was Nikki Glacier killed, and then Randy Moss was the next roaster, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, why would they put a non-comedian up after the comedian?
Yeah. I think they did a comedian, not like football player comedian. Some football like Julian Edelman, he killed it. Bill Belichick's surprised he freaking killed it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, roasts are fun. I think when it's like a roast of a person, it's more fun in my opinion because like we're all kind of there for like one purpose. I don't know. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's like I said, I can be mean, but I don't. And not that roasts are supposed to be mean, but
Yeah.
it can get pretty cutthroat. There's a whole. It's actually like a national. It's international now. Actually, I think it's just called Roast Battle,
Mm.
and so Denver has like a
Yeah.
chapter, and I think Jeff Stonick just went in, or he's there now in
Yeah.
Austin representing Denver and like these big tournaments where it's one-on-one battles. I'm actually roasting somebody next month in Denver. I'm representing my hometown, Colorado Springs, although I live in Denver now. Uh, yeah, so we're doing a whole like city versus city. So it's Colorado Springs versus Fort Collins. That can get pretty intense. There's a you look like roast battle that I did, and every joke literally starts with you look like. Just back and forth for 3 minutes. It's real intense. I forgot where I was going with all this, but yeah,
No
there's
worries.
there's a lot of
So
shit talking.
Is the Patreon going like you wanted to do, or like
It's
what's your plan with the Patreon? What's the ultimate goal? Like obviously be another revenue source, of course, but
Yeah, definitely another revenue source. Essentially, I wanted to give people an opportunity who are like, I want to support. Like, I got stickers for merch, and it's just like, how much shit can you actually sell, you know? Um, so it's another way to give people access to me as well. A lot of people that I've made connections with, and now that I travel doing comedy, are not going to be able to come see me perform very often. And it is live performance is like the thing, but also, and there's so much more to comedy and to the art form that I want to explore. And so that's going to be the space where web series, different sketch type stuff, me exploring and trying to do stuff. And the people who are like really drawn to me and want to support that, that's why I call it sponsorship, right? Like if you want to support that, I want to be able to give perks back. So I am also trying to talk to some different brands about actually getting um merch that just goes straight to my Patreon members. So um
so
kind of like a
how you market this? Like how you doing that?
mostly just through Instagram right now. I don't do a good job of marketing it at all, to be honest. Consistency is key, right? Um, and like I said, the way it's focused right now is more for people who know me already and are like, yeah, I want to support you. How can I support you? I want to join. I want to be able to come to this writer's room session. I also added a tier for joke writing. So for people who aren't comedians and they're like, I've got this idea and I think this would be funny. It's like, okay, cool. Let's see if we can turn it into a joke and then, maybe encourage some other people to go try comedy. And that was something that my boyfriend actually encouraged me to do. And I'm like, I'm still new to this. Why am I trying to teach people how to write jokes? And he's like, well, as we all know, the term expert is just relative, right? You've
Yeah.
got to be a little bit ahead of somebody else to help them out. So, um, yeah, kind of a side goal that came out of it is maybe getting some more people to try comedy, and especially women and just underrepresented people because it is very straight white male dominated at the moment.
And are you still doing like startup pitch coaching and communication consulting?
I took a sabbatical from that, and I'm actually in a process of trying to figure out how to either jump back into that specifically. I did a consulting session last week that was a lot of fun. And I'm also trying to figure out how to fuse the facilitation work that I did with communication and teaching skills with comedy and team building type, that kind of side of things. There's a lot of corporate improv and things like that, workshops and such. So I'm trying to think of like where my unique art side, creative side, and my business side can
Yeah.
come together and create some
It
offerings.
seems like you'd have a lot of material from your pitching, coaching, startup days that you can transfer to your comedy, I would think.
Yeah, a lot of it does, especially when we're talking about like stage fright, because that's the thing that holds most people back is just the
Yeah.
getting up there in the first place. And I even get nervous sometimes still. It always catches me by surprise too. Like all of a sudden, like the anxiety like hits me and I'm like, oh shit, I do my breathing
Yeah.
exercises and stuff and I'm fine. But yeah, I think there's some room for that. I just, when it comes to like stand up specifically, like I really want to focus my energy on writing and getting funnier and getting more stage time, not trying to build some like coaching
Yeah.
writing business or
Yeah.
something. There's other comedians doing that stuff. And I just, yeah, I want to figure out how to blend those two things together, but I don't want to force it.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
obviously, there's only 24 hours a day too, so
There's only 24 hours a day. Yeah. Um, I would like to get back to stuff though that I can do remotely because right now, one of my gigs is I'm a driving instructor, and so that
like driving a car.
yeah,
What?
yeah, behind the wheel driving instructor is one
That
of my
that's
gigs.
like so you're teaching like teenagers or like
Mostly teenagers, but also adults who either their license expired, they got it revoked or whatever. I had a lady who totaled like two company vehicles, and so they made her come take our little
man, you
course.
got money coming from everywhere.
Something like that. Yeah, it's still not enough. It's still not adding up. That's why I was like, I want to try to reduce my revenue streams actually and just increase them.
Yeah.
And I've also part of like shifting my mindset around like goals and all that is like I don't necessarily need money to meet all of my needs. Like if you want to let me go grocery shopping and use your food stamps, like there's lots of
Yeah.
ways I could get what I need um through either sponsorship or just like community like sponsorship, quote
So I
unquote.
met this guy a month ago. So every month I MC this open mic pitch competition, right? So I met this guy,
Uh-huh.
and he does I think it's called Task Rapper, right? He's telling me one time this couple, what I think they would, how you get Blue Apron delivered? They would pay him to cook the Blue Apron.
To cook their blue apron.
Yeah, like you see, yeah,
They ordered it and then paid him to come in and cook it.
yeah. Like man, that's beyond lazy right there. But he said they pay me good money, so I'll just open the
That's
Blue Apron
wild.
box and cook it. Yeah,
Like fresh, like he was like serving them the plates, or would they still have to microwave it?
he would do whatever he had to do. He would
I'm
get
just like curious because there's other ones out there where the food's already cooked. So like, why wouldn't you just order
I mean,
like
yeah, it's already cooked, it's already done.
Factor?
Yeah,
Well, no, Blue Apron, you have to still cook it.
I do okay.
Yeah, so the ingredients come like pre-portioned. So this guy you're talking
Yeah,
about, he's coming in and like being the chef,
yeah,
following his little recipe card.
yeah,
That's funny as fuck. But there's other ones where it's just like you microwave it,
yeah.
it's already cooked. So like, why wouldn't they just do that?
I don't know. Yeah, but he sounded like
This is like some
he's
people just have too much money.
yeah. And I think another person pays him to do oh, this is even more insane. So this one person pays him to load a dishwasher and wash the dishes in the dishwasher.
That's it. That's the task.
That's it. So you just pay like $100 or something insane amount of money. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I'm getting on Task Rabbit when I get home. What the fuck?
It's crazy, right?
That is crazy. I yeah, I'm on Upwork and I've done some interesting things. Like
What are you doing there?
um I don't even know what I have like down as my thing, like comms, whatever, whatever. But one of the things I did recently was this guy, he wrote a book that's like I didn't read the book, obviously, but it's something about like to shift your mindset and this, that, and the third. So he was like asking me these questions, and like the book like walks you through these questions, and so he's gonna use them for social media promo or something. I should follow up. I did that. See where my face is, but yeah. So there's definitely some random things, but not $100 to. But
Yeah.
see, that's still like you have to show up and go do something. Ugh, God, that's the part I'm trying to avoid. Like I want to go back to um I don't know. I think the first time I did your podcast, I was like at home. Like, I just want to be at home, my blanket, my fuzzy robe. Everybody knows my white fuzzy
Yeah.
robe. Like that's my comfort zone. So having to like show up. I actually like the job and like coaching the kids, but it's mostly kids. But golly, being
Yeah.
on time somewhere, you know me.
Yeah.
That's hard.
I know me, I know people agree with this. Like, it was up to me, you'd have to retake your driver's license every 5 years. A lot of people out here driving should not be driving. I think every 5 years you have to retake your license.
I'm you know, not mad at that in a general sense. Some kind of refresh, but also just because the laws change. So
Yeah.
like little things, like turning through the bike lane and shit like that. So yeah, I think just even from that perspective, so people can stay up to date, even if you're a good driver. The thing is like Then we're talking like, okay, you have to go pay to do this
Yeah,
thing every 5
the
years.
bureaucracy comes in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So then it's like, oh, okay.
that's the negative part. Yeah, that's how you
Um,
do it. Yeah.
yeah. So what's interesting in Colorado right now is the DMV actually doesn't do driving tests anymore. You have to go through a driving school,
Mm.
which is kind of weird. Because like when I got my license the last time I got my license when I was I think it was just yeah, I was still 18. I just lost my
Yeah.
license because of a drinking ticket in college. Which is funny because the only reason we got caught is because we didn't want to drink and drive. We stayed on campus and then that's how we got caught.
Okay.
And then I lost my license through the legal process, which was insane. But again, money generation is what we're getting
Yeah.
at here. So it's like, I don't want to say like, you know, freedom of movement, blah, blah, blah. You got to go every 5 years and, report your address and all these things and do all that. But oof, some kind of can you stay in between the lines even? Maybe incentivizing it so it's not you have to take a test or whatever, but like if you can pass this, give you money or something.
Yeah. So, is there a place that you want to perform at? I mean, like that's kind of like not like Madison Square Garden, nothing like that, but maybe like a place like Miami, San Diego. There's like a venue that's next for you.
um, I don't know about what's next for me, but like the Comedy Cellar and probably like Laugh Factory in Hollywood.
Okay.
Those are probably some of the big ones. Improv in Hollywood. I've gotten to do some pretty cool club comedy works. Downtown Denver is, I think they claim top 5 club in the country. And from what I hear from other comedians, that, they love it. Dave Chappelle loves performing there, people like that. So, um, I've also gotten to perform at an open mic at the Laugh Factory in Chicago, which is like a really cool theater style room. And yeah, those are like the 2 big ones. I've also performed at the Denver Improv and stuff. So I've gotten lucky to get on some cool stages. So at this point though, any of them, anybody who will have me and will pay me, I'll be there. Um,
And so, like when you went to Chicago, I guess you had to pay for your way there.
yeah, that's actually an interesting story. So the first time I did a couple shows in Chicago, I was actually at Madison Comedy Week last year and I met some Chicago comedians and it's just a few hour drive. Got offered some spots. There's a club there called the Lincoln Lodge and it actually has 3 different rooms. So there's 3 different comedy shows going on at any given time. And so I got on one show and then I was talking to another comedian. He's like, "Oh, I'm running a show that night across the hall." So I'm like, "Cool." So I got to do some guest spots there. And then a couple weeks later, I'm in Colorado and I'm just chatting with some other comedians, and they're like, "Yeah, we're about to just go visit my sister who lives like an hour from Chicago and try to do some comedy there and stuff." I just made all these connections there. And at the time, I was technically homeless. I was like couch surfing and stuff. So I'm all like, yeah, fuck it. I'll go on the road. So yeah, that was definitely like a last minute pay your way kind of thing. I got booked out of state for the first time in Albuquerque, and that was similarly a pay my way kind of thing. Um, maybe in a couple of years we'll start getting that travel stipend included. And then once you reach a certain level and you're getting booked at like the headline clubs, usually there's either they'll book the stuff for you kind of thing. We booked your hotel, we booked your flight, or you can do a travel buyout where you just get a set number of dollars to cover your travel expenses. And if you can budget, you keep the extra money.
So when you're doing a set, like suppose someone goes on before you, right? Do you prefer that person like kind of doesn't do well, or is it better if you follow someone who like fucking killed it, right? Or does that even matter?
Um, I prefer people to kill it.
Okay.
I want the energy high. I want to
Okay.
come in with people happy and glad to be there and
And then
excited for
you
more.
just continue the momentum.
Yeah. I think some people are intimidated by that. They're like, "Oh, I have to go after this person." Like, oh, and I'm just like, I get where they're coming from because it's like there is the law of relativity is a thing. So sure, if you're not as funny as that last person, it's gonna be
Yeah.
noticeable. But um so much harder to dig out of a hole, I
Okay.
think, personally. Or starting cold kind of sucks. When I did the competition a couple weeks ago, uh I was the first person after the host, and everybody's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, it's such a tough spot." I'm like, only because it's a competition. Like,
Yeah.
I need to be remembered or whatever. But the host spot sometimes can be a little. You got to get people focused and warmed up. And again, it depends on the venue too. When you're in a comedy club where everybody's sitting this close
Yeah.
together and we're all focused and it's dark and it's like that, versus when we're in a bar or a brewery and it's all echoey and you've got to, get
Yeah.
people focused. But yeah, I prefer to follow the funny. I don't understand that, like I'm secretly hating on you so I'll look better. Again, maybe it's my ego, but I don't need you to do bad for me
Yeah.
to do good.
Yeah. So I might be making this up, but I remember one time on the Joe Rogan show podcast, he was talking to one of the comedians, right? Because Joe Rogan has a lot of comedians on there. It wasn't anybody really famous they didn't want to know, but he's telling the story like he was doing a set at some comedy store, right? Like 5 comedians. He's supposed to go on like fourth, right? And they said, "Hey, Dave Chappelle's here. And Dave Chappelle wants to go on, so we're gonna put Dave Chappelle on before you. You went up to Dave Chappelle." I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, that might suck a little bit. Man,
You can't put Dave on last? Like, no, Dave can only come for 10 minutes and he has to leave, right? We're gonna put him before you.
yeah, I would still love that though.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
I'll take it.
Mhm.
Because think about like how focused everybody is after
Yeah.
that. And like, sure, some people might get up and leave, like, okay, Dave's gone, so we're gonna leave, but not really. At a comedy club,
I
like,
mean, I think the opportunity that guy had, right, to come after Dave Chappelle, like
what?
everyone's focused on the stuff, they're
Yeah.
good mood.
I'm trying to, yeah. And I'm not gonna lie, if that happened to me, I would probably be sitting there trying to write some callbacks and some
Yeah.
little jokes to
Yeah.
reference his set and
Yeah.
try to keep people like,
Yeah.
I try to use that energy
Yeah.
for sure. But then also use that attention to get my shit off. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would definitely try to play off of it and not be intimidated by it.
It was me, I would definitely like when I'm walking on stage, he's walking off, I'm like, "Hey Dave, here's my number, let's connect, you know.
Yeah. That's something that's interesting too. I haven't been at a situation like that where somebody super famous just popped up. Um, but comedy, for the most part, the comedians will hang out and
Yeah.
stuff in the green room or in the back area and stuff. And so like you kind of get a chance to meet these guys and stuff, and they're not as like far away as you think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like what's the etiquette of like sliding your business card and stuff like that? Like
Yeah.
check out my tape. Like
Yeah,
it
that's
just
right.
feels like a fucking local rapper running around with CDs in the early 2000s.
Oh man, speaking of that, like recently, so we're right by the water, all the tourist people are, right?
Uh-huh.
So about 2 weeks ago, I walked down there, go get something to eat, right? And this guy tried to hand me a CD. I'm like, dude, I'll buy this if you can tell me how I'm gonna play it. If you can tell me how I'm gonna play this, I'll buy all your CDs from you.
I know exactly who you're talking about too. Those dudes have been out here for like 15 years selling them CDs, man. They dropped about 10 CDs in the last 15 years.
Like, how am I gonna play this? Like,
But for real, how are you? I had a whole situation. I helped my friend who's in prison run his book publishing company called Black Sheep Publishing. And they were doing a podcast, and yeah, they tried to send me the CD. So they finally figured out how to get it on a CD, mail me the CD. I'm like, all right, I figured out I go to the library, go to the public library, shout out public libraries, and they have a converter thing that you can get BT dubs for everybody who does not have a CD player. There is a little, it looks like an external hard drive, and you plug it in and you can play the CD.
okay.
So I did all those steps to come to find out they did not upload the actual files. They copied over the shortcut, that you put on your desktop. They copied that file over. So it was like nothing basically on the CD. That was a few months ago, and I have not seen an update in the project, but go CDs and plastic. They're also like the worst like audio quality. Like CDs was the worst thing we ever did, I think, for sure. I don't know if it was the worst thing we've ever done, but at the same time, making a mix CD and that was curating playlists. Like my friend does this, Mel the Oracle. She's got like a radio station basically called Groove Soul FM, and she makes these like curated playlists on Spotify. And so it just, yeah, some of them are nice and short, and it reminds me of that, like, you only had that CD, and some CDs you want to listen to in a specific order, and sometimes you might throw it on shuffle.
So when you do like your comedy stuff, like you're doing like, we'll say we're doing one in Denver, Do they live stream it so people outside of Denver can watch it, or you have to actually be in person to watch it? Like, how do people watch it later on, so to speak?
Um,
Like, are they doing like TikTok videos for you and like pushing it out, or any kind of YouTube stuff, or is it like you don't make your show, you just miss out?
for the most part, it's a live performance
Okay.
art. So if you don't make the show, you don't make the show. Um, when you see jokes online, usually that means that person's already put that joke for like people who are like more famous and stuff and they've got specials. You don't want your jokes getting out before you film your special.
Yeah.
So that's where um Dave Chappelle was one of the first people I think to do this in comedy. Maybe not. First person I heard about doing it in comedy where they take your phones. So now they have these like bags, lock bags, and so they don't actually take your stuff from you anymore. But um they do that for us at New Talent Night at Comedy Works. They put people's phones in those bags. And so like the etiquette is very much like you got to be there. You shouldn't be recording comedians even if they don't take your
Yeah.
phone. Like, and if you do, like, don't post that stuff. Get their permission
Yeah.
first or whatever. I've it's always weird, honestly, when you just see somebody randomly just like recording your set like for a second, maybe they're getting a boomerang. A
Yeah.
boomerang's a great way, by the way, if you want to take a picture or whatever, video, or if you do a little short video, cut the audio off and put a song over it or something. But don't post people's jokes. You don't know where they're at in that. They might not be ready for people to hear it outside of that room. Or they might be trying to save it up for that like published special moment. That's why they call it a special, because it's special. I don't know why they call it that actually, but
So when you writing jokes or you do performance, like how much is it art? How much is like a science? Like how much is it like art? How much
ooh.
is it like technical? How much is it like more creative?
That's interesting. I'm trying to get like a ratio in my head. I don't know. I want to say it's kind of 50-50 maybe. There's because art is often breaking the rules too. So it's like if there's rules, they must be broken at to a certain point. But there are structures, like there's formulas, right? There's joke structures. You have a setup and a punchline. You have the rule of threes, which you've probably heard about just even with public speaking and stuff like that. So there's some brain science stuff you could apply to it. So you could definitely get real formulaic with it and very technical and bring in this like more sciency side to it. But at the end of the day, like you gotta be funny. You could have a setup and a punchline and not be funny. So I think the creative part, and again, that like we were talking about like stealing jokes earlier, is like you can't really steal a joke that's mine. You could say it, but it's still mine. Because I've put enough of me into it. And I think that's like any art, like people can imitate. And sure, people can do replicas. And that's a whole
Yeah,
thing.
that's a
But
good example that remember the comedian Bernie Mac, the black comedian, he like died a few years ago. He had a set
I
on
love
Def Comedy Jam where he came out and he said like, I ain't scared of you motherfuckers. Like 5 times. But like everyone knew that was him, right? So if someone else did that, they would know, dude, that's Bernie Mac's thing, right? What are you
yeah,
doing, right?
exactly. So that's like you could say those words again. Um, and there's like, you take inspiration from stuff. And so I think the big thing there is like cite your sources, right? Because sometimes it just happens. Uh, you might say a little tag here or there, like this even the internet and the way memes work and stuff like that. Like your everyday person is like doing a Cat Williams line or uh I'm trying to think of an example right now and I can't, but you hear it sometimes, and so it doesn't have to be this like, oh, you're taking, but it's like, yeah, we all know where that came from, so you might as well acknowledge it.
So back to public speaking real fast. Any tips for people who are like having problem with public speaking? Like besides just to get up there and do it.
Just get up there, just fuck your nervous system, just go do it. No, just some like quick tips, things to that's what it is, right? You're having like it's a chemical reaction, you're getting nervous, your nervous system is now activated in a way, adrenaline up, cortisol up, these things not making the best decisions, etc. Um, so you can Google a billion different ways to like calm your nerves. I like breathing techniques, breathing in for 4 seconds, holding it for 4 seconds, letting it out for 4 seconds, and just doing that until you feel your heartbeat calm down a little bit. um Maybe you need to do some deeper work around your self-esteem and your confidence. You need to be doing affirmations every day leading up to it. We talk about third person self-talk too, like taking yourself out of it instead of saying I am, going in like Brennan's about to crush it. Brennan's got the best set ever, like going into that mode. Um, Preparation, competence breeds confidence. If you know what you're talking about, that's going to help. So doing your homework and preparing and practicing as much as possible. You remember I practiced your pitch back in the day. That was like my big thing. Practice, practice, practice.
Yeah, I know with me, right? I'm kind of different. I'm kind of weird. Like when I get the more nervous I am before I go and speak to people, the better I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like if every time I'm like, I got this, I'm not nervous. I always fucking bomb it. Another thing too, like I rehearse and practice, but I can't do it in front of anyone else, right? I can't do it right. I shut down my body. I have so much anxiety. Even like I did it in front of you a couple of times because I know
Mm-hmm.
you a little bit. So I was more nervous practicing in front of you versus the crowd, right?
Yeah,
So I for me I just like anxiety just blocks me up when I practice in front of people,
that's
so I can't
interesting.
do it.
Yeah, I could get that. Definitely, it's way easier for me to go up into open mic than like from sitting down with my boyfriend and
Yeah.
he's like, "Run your joke by me," and I'm just like,
No. Yeah.
Like, here's the microphone, where's the stage?
Yeah.
So I get that like it's a weird, especially when you're practicing for a group to one person, it can be
Yeah.
very um awkward. So, practicing can also be just putting up a camera and like
Yeah.
doing that. Walking around, talking to your cat, kind of picture the stage that you're going to be on and like how much space you're going to have so you can practice working that out. So, yeah, practice doesn't have to be the full on scrimmage. But also if you get the chance to scrimmage and go to the open mic, the
Yeah.
pitch open mic before you go sit down with the investors, that makes sense to
Yeah.
me too. So, um, yeah, practice like you play, I guess, too, is like creating that environment. So if it's gonna stress you out, it's like, well, don't do that then, because that's not helping, obviously. And there's other ways that you could still practice and achieve that goal.
So are you doing anything in the startup community in Denver?
I'm not
Okay.
just yeah, straight up. When I went on sabbatical and stuff, I just kind of like
You're like,
essentially walked away from the business world in a sense, but had connections and stuff. So it was as opportunities came to me. I did a project last year with the PR firm that I interned for in 2012.
oh wow.
Yeah, my fellow intern who's been a full-time employee there for like a decade. Um, she came to a comedy show actually. And then like a couple weeks later, they were pitching a new client and they were like, if we get this project, we're gonna need a little help, a little contract help. So she hit me up and was like, we were working on this pitch and we were just talking about you, blah blah blah. So that was just like a top of mind thing. And then I'm always a phone call away for 3C communications. So Brian Rutberg, that's actually who I'm a dog sitting for right now. He'll frequently put me as a consultant and coach in his proposals.
And do you still get like a lot of people reaching out to you? Hey, Christina, I need you to do this for me, or like business stuff or consulting stuff?
Not so much. It's kind of fizzled out. I did the project or the session last week. So that's somebody who's been kind of keeping up with me, over the years. But yeah, I'm sure I could spark that all up again. But it's funny how if you stop talking about a thing, like
Yeah.
people will not think about you. So that top of mind awareness is real.
I'm guessing the answer to the question is no, but is there like a comedy school people can go to learn comedy?
There's all sorts of stuff. The there's a Rise Comedy. They do a lot of improv stuff, but they have different workshops, writing workshops, and then they do showcases and stuff for their students. So, um, I think I've seen more of it on the improv side than the stand-up side, but Second City is known for their programs as well in Chicago. And then there's all sorts of online stuff, different, just like anybody, right? Like, here's my e-course on how to do this or how to do that. There's stuff on like, because there's the art side and writing jokes, and then there's the business side, how to get booked. So I've seen like different workshops and stuff for that. But
So like in hip hop, there's a big thing, of people like hip hop or rappers having ghostwriters, right?
mhm,
And they kind of like, you're not a real hip hop person or you're not a real rap battle person. Someone write your
mhm.
raps for you. You're like low level. As comedians, they do the same thing where like if someone writing their jokes, they're thought of as like a lesser level as if they like perform and write their own jokes.
I think it's similar, but not as intense. I think with uh Yeah, with rapping, I think it's a little bit more of like, or maybe that's just the culture of rap. I don't know, in hip hop in general. But yeah, with comedy, like there's, I don't know. Because I have mixed feelings about that in general. Because it's like, well, there's performing and there's doing the thing. You could be an incredible songwriter, but be a shitty singer. So that means you can't be a songwriter now. Like those people don't deserve to be songwriters. Like they need somebody to write for, right? So there's to me, it's like it's all just part of the art and it's part of the formula. But you definitely hear people kind of like, well, they have writers anyway, or they do,
Yeah.
and so it is kind of scoffed at in a sense, but I don't think it's as intense.
Yeah. Do you think, I mean, though I think it's possible more famous you get, like you had Dave Chappelle's level, Joe Rogan's level, this top Cat Williams. Like, do we have time to write their own jokes, you know? I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, you know.
Yeah, I
Maybe they do
think
it to,
I
for the
don't
craft.
know. People like Dave Chappelle, he's just a philosopher type of comic, right? Like
Yeah.
he literally sits down and like will smoke a cigarette
Yeah.
and just talk about stuff. I don't think Joe Rogan's that funny to be
Yeah. To
honest.
be honest, I don't either, right?
His stand up. So maybe he should have somebody write his jokes,
Yeah.
but he could still use his notoriety
Yeah.
and his skill set of being a good public speaker
Yeah.
to,
And it seems like he
you
does a
know.
lot for comedians also, right? He has a comedy store he brings people on all the time. So he thinks like he's doing a lot for the culture of comedians as far as setting them up and stuff.
Yeah, I think that could be said. I don't know a whole lot about Joe Rogan. He does have it's called the Comedy Mothership, which
Yeah.
is the comedy club, and Kill Tony
Yeah.
is filmed there and produced there. And
Yeah.
that's
Kill Tony killed at the Tom Brady roast too.
nice. Yeah, so that show in itself, right? It's a panel of comedians who are at that level, right? And Sam Talent, who's from Denver, is now, one of the guest hosts on there sometimes. Um, and there's been, I can think of three comedians off the top of my head that I know personally who got their name pulled to
Yeah.
be on Kill Tony. So, in that regard, like, yeah, that one show right there, right? Like every week or every however often they do it is giving 10 plus comedians
Yeah.
a stage, right? So, yeah, in that sense, um, definitely he and just his platform too, like his podcast.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of comedy stuff out there though that's like a level under, right? That like so
And,
many times I don't know who these people are
yeah.
either.
And
So
Kill Tony, he came out of nowhere, right? Because I had no idea who it was until recently.
I think yeah, the viral clips and stuff have really grown
Yeah.
their platform in the last few years for sure. I was like, now that I think about it, I was like, they kind of did start getting their pop around the time that I really started comedy. So everyone's just like talking about it.
Yeah. I like the fact they bring these different people up, like give them like a minute. So one day I saw this clip and it's Kill Tony. He was like, next on the stage coming up. He was like, there's no fucking way this is real. I don't believe this. Next on the stage is RFK Jr. And it was like RFK Jr.
That's hilarious. Um, yeah, I'll be honest, I've only seen clips. I've never sat down and watched an episode.
Yeah.
And I've never been to Austin for comedy at all yet. So
Yeah.
my Kill Tony references are clips. The three people I know that have been on it.
Yeah. One time it was Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson was on in the little tibber, right?
Uh-huh.
And this black guy was on there all the time. I remember his name. He said, my grandma hates your ass. She's gonna be mad at me because I didn't punch her in the face.
That's funny.
And he was like, I'm sure your grandma's just so grown. Hell no, she's not. She
That's
hates you.
funny. I feel like, oh, who was that? Yeah, I feel like I saw that. That one was good. Um, Dr. Phil was on the one that one of my buddies was on. So that was kind of funny. Like, why is Dr. Phil?
Yeah. So is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't, or anything else you want to talk about?
Um,
I know you got to get out of here pretty soon.
I don't think so. Nothing in particular. This was fun. I haven't like really sat down and the other podcasts I've done recently are like other
Yeah.
comedians. So like having somebody outside of comedy,
Yeah.
like you got me thinking about some things to be I'm like,
Nice.
maybe I need to ask myself some
Yeah.
questions. Uh and yeah, other than we talked about like where to find me and all that at _C Brennan on all the socials. Followers mean something to somebody. So, I'll take a follow. YouTube subscription, right? Subscribe,
Do you have a YouTube
like,
channel?
I do. I'm on YouTube. I need to, again, this consistency thing with posting. And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier about not burning material. It's like, what do I post?
Yeah.
You know, do I want to, like, who gives a fuck? Like
Yeah.
all the number of times somebody's like, you should do a podcast. And I'm just like, bruh, we don't need another podcast, right? I'll just come on to your podcast. Like I could just go to Jason Kavanagh's podcast experience. So yeah, I don't know. I think I'm good. I usually have like something to promote. I have this I hashtag promo ho HEAUX. So yeah, when in doubt, it's like promote something. So yeah, go to my Patreon, talk to me, support. Oh yeah, like Free Brandon Jackson on Facebook. That's the Black Sheep Publishing Facebook page. And be nice to people. That's yeah. Who am I biting? Who is that? Ellen DeGeneres? Be kind
Yeah,
today, but then
exactly.
I'm gonna be the meanest person ever and have all these
That
crazy
was so
stories come out.
that was so fucking crazy. Like, or do you say be kind? You're fucking like destroying your people. Like,
Yeah. I know. I should come up with like what do I do all the time that I could, oh, I cry all the time. So maybe I'll come, don't cry.
so
Cry
what?
your eye.
So what are some shows you have coming up either here in Seattle or Denver, like the next 2 weeks, next month, and people can check you out, Alan?
I'm in Seattle for the next week tonight. I don't know if this probably won't be out tonight, but Trenchers has a comedy show every Tuesday. I believe it's a free show at 8 p.m. down in Renton. And then this Saturday, the 27th of July, I am at Hopvine up in Capitol Hill. And then I'll probably be at Club Comedy tomorrow night for their open mic.
Nice. Um, Hey, Christina, thanks for this again. You're such a great person. I always like spending time with you.
I know this was so fun. I'm glad we got to well, you got to catch up with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll catch up with you in a second.
Cool. All right. Thanks for listening, and remember to be great every day.